Sounds like everyone is ready.
Time if we would have invested in Bitcoin when it was April. We pave our streets with gold.
Are you ready, Tom, or not? Yeah, okay. Okay, Director Sassman?
Oh, my computer holds out.
Do you need a plug? Well, you don't have
I'm
an
good so
outlet.
far.
Okay.
I am good so far. All right. I'm just going to do a little bit of an overview. Some of it the mayor kind of might have touched on before I get into the actual department budgets. But basically, the budget that you have before you does include a 2% cost of living for employees. The budget as presented has a tax levy increase of $185,639, which is a 1.77% increase from last year. And then since we had printed the budget workbooks, we did receive the final assessed values from the state. So I could kind of plug those numbers in. So right now, again, as the budget stands, our proposed tax rate for Winnebago County would be 9.13. And you'll see that is down. And then for Calumet County, 9.16, both down by basically about the same amount.
Can we go back to that again?
Sure. I know it's kind of small. So last year, the tax rate for Winnebago County was 9.76, and right now it's proposed to go down to 9.13. For Calumet County, last year, 9.83, proposed to go down to 9.16.
So the percent change in the assessed tax rate from the previous year would be in Winnebago County, -6.53%.
For the tax rate.
What was the 1% increase you're saying? Is that the spending? I missed it.
Oh, our overall tax levy, as presented, right now, we're looking at a 1.77%
Spending.
levy.
Okay.
Levy, yeah.
Where is that?
At the beginning of your budget book,
Oh, I
there
thought-
is,
See, I'm looking for it on here.
oh, no, sorry.
That's why, and I'm like, I can't see it.
Oh, no, sorry.
Right, you can't see it, it's not there.
Alrighty.
So
Move on, sorry about that.
That's right.
FYI, I just emailed you that chart, everyone on the council, so you have it if you want it.
That one that you got up there.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. And then since we received our final assessed values from the state, we have our assessment ratios. So for Winnebago County, 0.9898, for Calumet County, 0.9862. So this obviously shows that our assessed values are very much in line with our equalized values, which was our goal. So we're in a very good position there. Alderman Taylor?
What would it take to get us below that, let's say 899 or something?
For the assessed rate?
Yeah.
Basically, every 100,000 is about 10 cents off of the tax rate. Yeah.
What was that, Ted?
It'd be more than that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, every 100,000 would take the 10 cents off the tax rate,
So-
approximately.
Okay. So if we reduce the budget somewhere in that line, we could have a 8.99%.
Two things basically come into play as we're putting the budget together. One of them is expenditure restraint. The city receives a payment from the state of Wisconsin to the tune of about $350,000. That's part of our annual shared revenue payment. And to qualify for this, which we do, our general fund budget increase has to be less than the sum of the consumer price index plus our net new construction. And this slide here, it does have a lot of numbers, but really basically what it's saying is our general fund budget could have gone up 3.4% I'm sorry. Could have gone up 3.4%, and it actually is going up 2.39%. So we would think, that we have kind of money to play with. However, the next part of it is strictly the tax levy limit. So although on the expenditure side, we kind of have room if you want to look at it that way, the state basically tells us how much our levy can be. Right now, the proposed tax levy is the $10,679,90. Our allowable levy was only the $10,541,70, which was only an increase of $55,000 from last year. However, there are some unused carry forward amounts from previous years that we can use. And right now, the budget is proposing to use $129,000, basically, of that amount that's allowed from the state. And then just a breakdown of the levies that, or various levies, what makes up the $10,679,90. Our general fund levy, projected to go up 2.08%. The debt service levy, that one we kept flat. And the recycling fund levy, actually to go down 0.94%.
So, I got a question.
Yeah.
So, many moons ago, former Alderman Tom Owen would like to take from the general fund to offset that 0.91%. Is that something that could be done to make it 8.99?
To reduce it?
Yeah.
We could, yeah.
I'd first rather go through the budget and everything, but,
Right.
I mean, I had a meeting today with another community and, we're always, right away, they're like, what are you, 11%? And we're at 5, and it's just like, and it is perception, but it's also about the quality of services that you're receiving in the community also. You're not comparing apples to apples, but the long story short here is people do look at that number. And I wouldn't mind seeing us at 8.99 if we could do it. So we did increase our general fund, like you said, and taking 140 or 60,000 might be the solution, but I would prefer to go through the budget first.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Sure.
Just to piggyback off what you said, traditionally, over at least the last number of budgets, we've used $200,000 from the general fund to supplement the levy. And if I'm reading these papers correctly at the beginning of our budget book, that is the case again this year.
Yes.
Right, we are still
typic-
balancing the budget with 200,000, which I think that's been the same amount for the third year. However, I can't even remember the last time we even dipped into that. And it certainly is my goal to not do that, to make every effort possible to not do that. Yeah.
But
So-
we are up beyond.
We are up above our ordinance requirement
Right,
of the
right.
6%. We're double that.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what, if we took 140 or something from that, what that percent would change to. Probably wouldn't even be 1%.
The issue
So we'd
with,
still be above the old ordinance of 10%.
the issue with filling a gap with one-time money like that is that in 2023's budget, not only do we have to fill that 150,000, we also have to budget for salary increases or health insurance increases. So we're starting out in a double hole. I pulled 600,000-ish out of what was requested by department heads this year.
Right, we did a lot of work to get to the
Yeah.
point that we are at.
And I do
Definitely,
realize
yeah.
that, and
So-
that, but the thing is then really part of that job is ours.
It-
Somewhere down the line, it became only staff's job. And I understand that because we're not full-time council members,
Yeah.
you know.
And the thing of it is too, it's hard with the levy limits that are in place because I can't present a document to you guys that, is exceeding that. It doesn't seem right to do so. So we get our budget down to a point that's allowable.
So if there's a project that we wish to get rid of or something that isn't reoccurring to get us down to that point, that's great. But to say we're going to fund a person next year with money from our reserve that we don't have any idea how we're going to fund that person in 2023, that would be a bad situation to put us in. But if it's a project. if we
It would
want-
have to be a project in my
Yeah,
estimation.
I'd be fine with a
I
project.
would never do it towards a salary or something like that,
Yeah.
no.
Right.
So, but.
I just don't want to put us in a
I
huge
just
hole the
wanna,
following year.
I just wanna throw that out, because in the past, there's been very strong opinions about doing that.
But remember, we were at $11, what, 3 years ago?
Exactly, but we should start showing the community that we're in the $8 range now.
Yep.
And,
So the other,
but like I said before, and I don't wanna waste any more time on this, I just wanted to throw it out so the council members could think about it, but we still have several other nights of budgets yet. And there may be things that come up that might need to be added, actually. Or we might find a mistake. Those things happen during these processes. So but I just wanted everybody to look at that as a possible option. And I voted against it in the past because it wasn't like what the mayor said. It wasn't designed for anything specific.
so I did take a number out of my presentation that Jennifer said we may want to look at a little further, but if we can close TIF 9, there are tens of millions of dollars of new increment or new tax base there. So our real goal should be to get TIF 9 closed next year, any way possible, because that will push our tax rate down dramatically
And I mean, by
than the following year.
doing some of these clever things, we just built a brand-new facility that's being financed, and maybe down the road, we may want to pay off some of that and then refinance so that we are less in debt and are paying our bills quicker. So
Yep.
that's all.
So there's some good news around the corner as well. I just wanted to.
All right, all right.
TIF 9 could be very, very good news for us if we can
Right,
get
and
it
we
done
would start
next year.
that process this coming spring.
All right.
So hopefully that,
Sorry to
All
interrupt
pans
you
out.
there. I just,
no, not a problem.
Alderman Grady, did you have a question?
Well,
quickly?
yeah, just a little couple comments on this general fund money and borrowing this or borrowing that. I too, my goal was to get this equalized tax rate below the $9 mark. And I think we're right on the cusp of doing that, a couple $100,000. And there are some big budgets to look at yet in the future coming up the next couple of days and weeks. And also you got to remember too, with the American Recovery Funds, we put $200-some thousand into the police for their radios that help reduce, our levy monies too. So we can be creative, and I think as older people, let's try to get to that 990 some range, and that'll really send echoes out through the community.
TIF 9 is the festival foods area.
Okay, specifically the finance department budget, that's on page 26. Just a couple of things from this year. As you guys know, we went to the bond market again, and we borrowed for our 2020 capital improvement projects. We refinanced a couple of our state trust fund loans, and then we also refinanced the note for the construction of the public works facility this year. As far as 2022, Certainly, we're always looking to monitor our debt and look at the borrowing approach that, best is the most beneficial for the city, and seeing what there is for refinancing and how to, take care of new debt. Always working closely with community development to monitor our TIDs as things can change very quickly, to make sure that our TIDs are able to close in a neutral or positive position. We are going to be migrating to a new property tax collection software program. So that'll, be a big part of next year between my department and IT as well. And then we can continue those conversations for plans to best utilize those ARPA funds in a way that's the most beneficial for the city. The budget itself on page 26, really outside of wages and benefits, there's a lot of kind of fixed costs, if you will, in the finance department budget. Our line item 2103, which is the accounting financial services, that's where you'll see our audit fees. We also have additional audit fees for GASB, our banking fees, things like that. Pretty set costs. Sub-account 2901, our printing, in addition to envelopes and whatnot. This is for printing of our tax bills. And then we have our line item for our IT costs, which I'll actually touch on in the IT portion of this. So unless there were some specific questions on page 26. And then the assessor. That is on page 34. As you guys know, the city contracts with Associated Appraisal for our assessment services. In 2021, we did enter into a new contract with them, which goes from September 2021 through August 2024. And obviously, like I said, the goal is to continue to work with them to keep our level of assessment as close to 100% as possible, to keep our assessed values in line with our equalized values, to keep those ratios as close to 100% as possible.
How far did we drop?
What's that?
How far did we drop with our ratio?
It went up.
Yeah, I meant that, where were we before it did go up?
Last year, we were at, I'm going to say it was around 0.96.
Yeah, well, I meant even before that, it was below that.
Oh, yeah, this definitely, like I said, to keep that at a much more, on an annual, closer to 100%, it's very, very beneficial for us. Page 37 it's an account that we call illegal taxes, tax refunds. This is an account that we use to, when there's like an assessor error of sorts or a correction, we make payments out of that. In most cases, we are able to charge back the other taxing entities, so just a portion of that cost would be a city cost. And then sometimes there are a city share of a loss on property that we would get billed from the county if we had outstanding special assessments that we sent over to them. So that's what we use this account for. Really, the number kind of varies from year to year, quite honestly. We have an account called Uncollectable Debt. That's on page 38. Just an account that we use to write off basically uncollectible debt that's past its collection period, mainly personal property, as well as when we bill people for accident damages. Those are obviously cannot go on the tax bill, so we do have, if we cannot collect for those. And then write-offs are approved by the council on an annual basis, so they come to you guys every spring, so that you do know what we are actually writing off. Yes.
Jennifer, how come in 2020 it was like 23,000, and then 2021 it's like 4,000, and 2022 4,000? Why the big number in 2020?
Are you looking at the uncollectible debt?
Yes, please.
trying to think of what property that was.
Wasn't that the year that we wrote off things that had languished for a long, long time?
I can find it pretty quickly.
38. What? Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see that.
We had a lot of these were just a larger than normal amount that was sent to collection for basically accident damages. And then what we basically do is when we send something off to collection, that's when we expense it. Should we receive money back, then we do offset that expense. So it just happened to be a year that there were more that we couldn't collect for ourselves.
Okay, all right. Thank you. It wasn't that large amount anyway, but.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Continuing to look at page 38, in the 2021 year-to-date actual, there are minus signs behind those numbers. And does that mean that that's what that's what has been declared as uncollectible? Or
So-
we've gone over the
At this
budgeted
point
amount?
in the year, because that one is showing a negative, that's because we have, like I said, expensed certain items as we send it off to collection, but then we've received more back from the collection agency for probably prior years. So I'm still expecting at year end that we'll have a cost to the city once we get the personal property accounted for,
So you've,
for the year.
you've sent more off to collections than you've collected.
In this case, right now, it's the other way around.
You've collected more than you've sent off to collections.
Right.
Okay.
But it
It's
could have
just-
been from previous years, amounts that were sitting out there with the collection agency or the tax refund intercept.
Okay, and then
program.
do you have a way to project these things? Because you're requesting half the amount for 2022, roughly half, than requested for 2021.
Yeah, that one is such I do look at I do know our schedule of personal property, like what year something can be written off. So that is a more of a known amount for me. What we kind of submit for, like I said, accident damages, that goes up and down so much. So that one is just sometimes kind of a shot in the dark.
Okay, thank you for clearing up the minus signs, because that's not something
don't
we're
often
used to
see a
seeing
minus
in
sign
the
on an
budget.
expense,
Nope,
yeah.
thank you.
I don't like seeing those either, really. Kind of messes you up. All right, and then moving on to IT. Right. Right. Moving on to our IT budget, that is on pages 271 to 293. And just a couple of accomplishments to note for this year. We did complete the large infrastructure project. We are staying on our PC replacement schedule, and then trickling down some of the older PCs to areas, say in like the police department, that doesn't need a new one, so staying on that schedule. We have worked to create a stronger security on our network. We implemented a new antivirus software, which is much more robust than the one that we had. So it has definitely been catching things. So that was a great improvement. Yeah, I don't know why that one, I noticed that, why that one printed so small. Yeah. Yeah, and the PDF I have, it's not small. I don't know why that one came through that way. My apologies.
That's because you don't want us to catch stuff.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I think it's a couple pages back from that, or the other way. It was pretty small. And then also continuing to work with Heartland Business Systems.
Do you want to comment on that, Jen? We've been with them 2 years now, I think,
Yes.
since we went out for RFP.
We have been. And, basically, as I predicted this to kind of happen in 2021, we have some very qualified IT individuals in our department right now. So Heartland has been a great tool for us, but we're seeing that we're using them more on specialty knowledge and projects. And our IT staff is continually just absorbing that information and knowledge that they have to offer. So we are using them less, and that is what I, predicted would happen. But they're a good tool to have for that specialized knowledge that is always changing. A couple other things that IT was working on this year, doing some project management and planning for some of the things that you're going to be seeing in the budget for this year. So working through some of the details so that we have a lot of things in place before we, embark on a project and they have kind of all of their ducks in a row. And then one of the things too is preparation for the property tax software, and knowing what kind of servers we need in place and all of that pre-work basically is some things that they have been working on.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Going back to page 271, since I can see the page, down on the bottom where it says apply fund balance, where did we come up with the $15,000? I know you got parentheses around it. So that helped us eat up some of the other expenses, but where did that $15,000 come from?
That was intended for those 3 years. I believe it was when we created another position in IT that we knew we had X amount of basically fund balance to apply to the budget. So we knew that coming for the 2022 budget that wasn't an option anymore. So although the IT budget as a whole was kept basically flat, like it was a couple dollars up, but the charge to the various departments was a bit greater to make up for that $15,000 of fund balance that we are not using anymore.
Oh, okay. I mean, I looked, the police went up 8,000, the public works went up 1,200, community development 2,100, and so on. Health department must have been they went under 2,000, almost $3,000.
And I can get into that a little bit too. I'll kind of explain the specifics to the departments, and hopefully that will clear that up for you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to make a suggestion that whether it's police or public works or whatever, when they come in to discuss that, they bring up their technology budget issues, because I'm looking at the police right now, and although you have it up here, I'm looking at, things such as the RSA maintenance. I have no clue what that is. I have probably questions for the T2 parking system. Is that the software that we have to pay to just
parking ticket
have that?
software,
Because that
correct.
seems very high, because first of all, if the software is $7,000, I'm wondering how many tickets are we writing just to pay for that software. So I don't want to waste your time, but if the mayor, or yourself, or whoever, when it comes to their budgets, if they could address those.
Sure, I can pass that along. I have the revenues. Yeah. I can get that for you guys if you'd like.
Software is insanely expensive no matter
Right, I realize that,
what you pick.
but are we issuing,
The parking tickets to pay for the.
right,
Yeah, we're,
is the expense, right? I want to
Sure.
we're spending, let's say, 80,000 on this whole system, and we're writing $5,000 worth of tickets, it really isn't gonna be worth it. We spent 50 or 100,000.
I don't remember what the,
Right.
it was a new piece of hardware, yeah, but
Yeah, I don't think it was that much, but, I mean, yeah, definitely software
I
is,
would like to see how much money we got parking tickets.
it's in the revenues, we
Yeah.
can, yeah.
And we can have the chief talk to us about those.
So as far as 2022, for goals, it's to actually work on the implementation of some of the project management things that IT has been working on in the latter half of this year. Upgrading our firewall, that should be done right away, in January. Again, our property tax software system, working on upgrades to servers, and then ongoing security measures as well. Alderman Sevenick?
So now, I'm sorry, I'm jumping to 179, and then I'm just going to look at, what are these?
179?
279, sorry.
Okay.
And you have these applied fund balance, less printing for the IT budget, and then, of course, city council's in there of 2,701. What are those figures for?
Sure. That kind of is where we're kind of headed. So basically, the structure of the IT budget is the IT budget's an internal fund of the city. So all of the departments fund that budget. So most of the departments are going to have a line item 2907, and that is their IT costs. And all of those costs become a revenue to this fund. So that's how that is structured. And like I said, the IT budget itself was actually kept flat. It's just that we're not using, we don't have that $15,000 in fund balance to apply. So that the charges that went to the various departments were higher. Just to kind of go through page 273 gives what you're used to seeing from most of the departments, just basically a general line item. But because the IT department budget is more complex, when you go from pages 274 through 279, it breaks down some of those line items a little bit more. One of the things starting on page 275, it's called a repair maintenance account. It's kind of the account that we use for a lot of the annual subscriptions, software costs, things like that. So we have it broken down by each department that primarily uses that software. Police, engineering, in the finance part, you'll see our property tax software. And then there are also global costs in that particular line item on page 276 that are our firewall and things of that nature. So that kind of gives a breakdown of what's all included in that line item. And it is a lot of things. So, that's why we break it out in this level of detail. And you had referenced on page 279, each department, years ago when we started this fund, we have a formula in place that kind of structures how each department pays into the IT fund. And, based on the number of PCs that they have and whatnot. So the global IT costs, that's how that formula comes into play. So what each department pays towards the IT overall budget. And then there are the department-specific costs for their software needs and things like that. So it's a pretty complex budget.
Yes. Back to page 273.
Yes.
Thank you. This is like the giant IT across the board, the giant
Right.
budget. So I noticed that there are I lost my spot here, but at the bottom where it says computer equipment,
Mhm.
8001. First of all, there's two computer equipments. Can you help me understand why there's two of those?
Sub-account 5403 is depreciation expense.
Okay,
And then the sub-account 8001, that was the portion of the infrastructure project that was paid out of the IT fund, and that was paid out of the IT fund balance.
okay, and so that explains why that's zeroed out for 2022.
Right,
Okay, I was wondering why we were going from 81,000 to zero.
right.
On page 276. Under global, there is money allotted for the go-to, assess the go-to meeting 800. So I was just wondering the status of those, if we continue to use those regularly?
I mean, obviously, we don't use them as much. We can certainly, we can cancel that, if we decide to go that route, but we did still keep it in the budget, if that's something we want to continue to use. I think we have a couple, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor. Yeah, so we could also reduce the number that we have as well, if we wanted to just keep one, per se. We could do
Okay.
that.
The library is still using that pretty extensively.
Okay,
I know that we use it here a little bit, but we could probably get by with one license. I'm not sure how much health department uses it. They have a license. I think we had one for city hall, one for library, and one for
that sounds right.
health
Okay.
department, if I remember right.
I mean, I think it's something that's definitely useful going forward and can be an interesting, or a good tool to have on hand
Yes.
under, yeah, just because it cuts down so much on travel time and all of those things. I was just curious, there's 3 of them, and what the plan is going forward for those. So thank you.
You're welcome.
They should be listed like go-to meeting, city hall, go-to meeting, library, go-to meeting,
Break them out.
health department.
I had one other question, actually. I think it's under the finance portion of this IT budget. And it was listed as Central Square Technologies for $35,500. And when I'm looking at this, am I understanding correctly that that's an annual thing? It's not something new?
No, that's our financial software package.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you. Is that $35,500 every year?
yes,
Thank you.
yes. Yeah,
And
software
and
is,
that's a fairly
Very-
inexpensive
yeah,
package.
I mean, that's probably half of what we would probably be paying with another vendor. So, yeah. A couple things specific to the IT budget. Sub-account 2104, which is called Computer and Technology. Part of that dollar amount is the amount that we pay to Heartland for their services. I did reduce that some, but again, I want to be careful not to reduce that too much, as we still do have plans of utilizing them for their specialty kind of knowledge. We have some, hopefully some projects on the horizon for next year that we'd be using them for that as well. So that is where you'll see those costs. And sub-account 2404, which is where all the software licenses and things like that are, that was kept pretty flat. Really, the main difference is the increase in the cost of the antivirus software, which again has proven to be a huge and a great investment. And then we're looking to upgrade our market drive assessment software, basically from an Access database to a SQL database, and more costs associated with that. Otherwise, basically all of the other line items specific to all of the departments, other than, just various annual increases, there wasn't much change to those. Did you have a question, Alderman Nichols?
There's also 2 computer and technology accounts. There's 2104 and 3012.
3012 would actually be computer equipment itself.
Okay, and then what sorts of things fall into the tools and equipment, the 3015?
3015, if you see on page 277, we have money in there for our new firewall equipment, possibly if we have to replace a switch. I always do put in there for an extra PC replacement if something, is unexpected. And then just various miscellaneous equipment purchases throughout the year.
Okay, thank you.
And then on pages 280 to 293, like I said, it gives the same information, but it gives a page for each department and how their IT costs are broken down for each department. Just it shows it in a different way, basically. Yeah. All right. And then in the general fund on page 36. Let's see. We do have dollars budgeted for some of our larger technology software needs that we have, that we're looking into, basically to kind of keep the IT fund more stable, and knowing that we have some of these larger items that we did talk about when we had our CIP workshop a few months ago. And just to elaborate on a couple of them, one of the items is multi-factor authentication. So this is an added security measure that would basically blend 2 different factors when accessing the network. So certainly something that we need to move forward with. Another project that we're looking at is called System Center Configuration Manager, SCCM. So this would increase our security when it comes to software upgrades. It would help help in the deployment to the devices and applications. It would certainly help to reduce, to close out on software vulnerabilities much sooner. So that is something that we are looking at for 2022. And then also compliance with our Microsoft licensing. That's a pretty large ticket item. I believe that one was $16,000. There is money in the IT fund balance to cover the remainder of that, so this would be the rest of the dollars that are needed to come into compliance. And then some employee security training. And then one of the other things that we have been looking at is what are some options for some budgeting / financial software to, like I said, basically work on streamlining the process, certainly enhance the process, hopefully give us a better output than what we currently have, make it more of an interactive process, much more accurate on the personnel side of the budget, and then just a huge time saver overall. So that is something that we are looking into, a couple companies that offer that particular type of software and how that could help us. I think that's everything in there, unless there's any questions.
Does anyone have additional questions for Jennifer? Alderman Taylor?
Ken, I just want to say you've done an excellent job moving into this position, and we had a lot of challenges through COVID and with the IT department and things, and you've handled everything. And the city garage with shifting different funds for different loans out there, and just a tremendous job for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we don't have any other questions for Jennifer, we could accept a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in